Hey, 39.
Number 1.
39.
1.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33.
32.
31.
30.
29.
28. 27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22.
21.
20.
19.
18. 17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7.
6. 5.
4.
3.
2.
1. It's time for mouthwash. Giddy up. Hi, and welcome to episode 101. And we are going to be recapping 2022 tonight. And this is a Mindy Fresh take on politics. But we're going to cover all sorts of topics tonight. And if you have one, make sure you post it in the comments, and we'll be sure to try to do our best to mess it up, or might even make up a word to go with it. So let's just get this out of the way right away. You know, Dorn always has to ban Lucy from the show, and Ed, get better internet. So those are two things we got out of the way. And this is going to be an interesting show. I wanted to do this tonight without a guest because I want to highlight the panel and let them have more of an opportunity to talk to you about what's going on. And Tiffany's got a pretty major announcement. So we're going to go ahead and get to it. And just one more thing. If you're a member of the People Over Politics group on Facebook, I've been putting out some polls. And when you vote on those polls, we take those results and those questions and we talk about them on the show. So you can help us out by voting on that. So, that's good. That's your part of participating. And then if you have questions, make sure to put them in the comments. But I'm going to go ahead and bring on, my wife. She's watching on the big screen. Makes us all look official. Okay, well, talking about official, we're bringing on Tiffany here. Tiffany, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic, John. Thank you for having me.
Well, you have some super big news. Tell us what the heck you're up to.
So as everybody knows who watches the show, and if you don't know, I live in Fishers. I've lived here for the last 15 years. And last week I announced that I'm running for city council at large. We have 3 at-large seats, 2 Republican incumbents. So I'm running for that 3rd seat that's currently held by the Democrat. I'm super excited. And John asked me to explain what city council does. Here at the local level, they help the mayor. Well, they approve the mayor's budget. They pass local ordinances for safety, making sure that our police force is fully funded. Our first responders have everything, road signs, approved projects. And I'm really excited about providing representation for folks. So Fishers is a town of about 100,000 people. So I'm super excited to be that at-large candidate and, just listening to everybody and trying to find solutions and going to different events and showing up at soccer games with the kids and just doing stuff like that.
The games you got to play. Now, I've got a very important question that I know will be coming up on the city council because, urban chickens are sort of a big thing. What's your stance on urban chickens? Are you for or against roosters?
Well, based on everything I've learned from Lucy down the road, people need to be able to kind of self-sustain. So having a chicken and not a rooster might not be a bad thing, but everything goes back to what your HOA will allow. That's one of the things that we're working on here in Fishers. Over the last year, 2022, with the housing boom, a lot of homes here were purchased by corporate investors, outside entities. And so our HOAs did have to step up to regain control of the neighborhoods. But that is certainly something that some of the HOAs might entertain, having a chicken and not a rooster, because roosters make too much noise.
Well, you ought to be in Mars Hill. It's like living in the wild times here some mornings. We
I
have
like
to the east.
Your chickens are very nice.
Yeah, I don't have a rooster, but I got some others that do. But and we have goats across the street. So hey, it's Mars Hill is more like farmland or that. So well, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Lucy. We're going to do it a little differently, and as you've heard earlier, Ed's internet is still sketchy. So I don't know if we like this format or not, but we're going to give it a shot. We're trying a couple new things starting out 2023. So Lucy, how the heck are you?
I am better than good.
I see you have some morale mushrooms behind you.
Well,
Is that to give us all morale? I mean, morale.
These are not the magic mushrooms, sadly, but I'm starting off the new year right in tie-dye with my hippie long hair kind of parted in the middle, trying to channel the late 60s, early 70s.
Yay.
Yeah. Anything for the show. That's what I love. Anything for the show. So, Dorn's asking if you have a campaign manager. I don't know if Dorn's volunteering or what, but
I think he has PTSD after being mine.
I actually have a really great consultant that I'm working with, and she's done a lot of the stuff on the back end. When you're self-employed, I've got to make money. I've got to do my real estate stuff, but she's done so much on the back end with paperwork, setting up accounts. She did my webpage, tiffanyforindiana.com. And
put that in the comments.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and we're set up with WinRed. We're taking contributions. We announced on Facebook last week, raised some money, and I have a fundraiser coming up in February. So everything has been
we need to have a
really good
Tiffany parade. We gotta have a Tiffany parade right down the middle of Fishers. It's funny, when I was a kid, I was a odd carrier for a bricklayer back in the day, and we did a house up in Fishers. And there wasn't nothing up there. I got news for that was 40 years ago or more, 45 years ago. And I'll tell you, it sure has grown. And I actually remember Castleton I remember driving the forklift down 82nd Street to Hoosier Pete, filling it up with gas. We did one of the first buildings there, the Metroflex. And that place it's just amazing how much urban sprawl we had going on here. So, yeah.
I had a client who lived on 116th Street by Plumber Supply. He bought his house in the mid 70s for, I don't know, like $20,000, and we sold it for $1 million last year. So
yeah, you're up there in that higher end district. You gotta have
the IRS had their hand out.
No, it was purely location. It was right off of 116th Street, right there in the Nickel Plate district. And
they're probably going to build the house and build a really nice one there.
Yeah, they're going to put a Top Golf in it.
The house is gone, and it'll be part of another project. But him living in such a busy area, it was just far too stressful for him. People walking in his front yard, walking into his home. People were trying to offer him nickels on the penny to buy his house. I mean, it was just really, really, really uncomfortable for him.
Well, he got it there. Oh, and we do have another volunteer for your campaign. Tiffany, if you need a bodyguard, I think that's a volunteer right there. I don't know. Never mind. I'm not going to say anything more on that.
So Robert, I will tell you with some of the comments that I've had on Facebook, I might need a bodyguard. I will certainly keep you in mind. I was on Newsmax last week. I was on the American Agenda. And after that show, I got a Facebook request, and somebody got in on one of my public pages. And it's just very interesting how people come in and they like all of your old pictures, and then they send you like a message. And so it was just a little bit different, bit different.
Well, hey, the Mouthwash show's making you famous. Just don't forget us, okay? I'm just saying, me and Lucy will be here by ourselves pretty soon, and we got left out of we missed the Yellow Brick Road and the 310 to Yuma or whatever they call it. So, but hey, let's get to the show. What we're gonna do tonight, we're doing this little different thing here. I don't know if I like it. Let's see about this. I don't know. I sort of like
the other way. Yeah,
I like that. It looks good. We'll keep rolling it. So what we've done here is People Over Politics. If you're not on that, I don't know why you wouldn't be. I put all sorts of fun polls up there, and you can get involved in what our topics are. And well, one of the topics we had was, do you think we should cover anything from the State House? And that one got us a pretty good result. We had 91% of our voters, and we had 24 people that voted on this, said they wanted to see it. And then there's 8% not really, and one said stick with the program, and 0 at no opinions. So I'm going to ask the panel, what do you guys think about covering some stuff in the State House? I mean, maybe we get our producer Adam Harvey to help us out with that, because he's got his ear to the ground down there at the State House, and he can fill us in on all the things. And I could interview a couple people probably. So what do you guys think?
So I think it'd be great. Are you going to the inauguration next week? I think it's next Monday.
I don't know.
Monday at 2:30. I mean, our new treasurer, our new Secretary of State, Tara Klutz doing her starting her final term. I think it'll be very interesting. So
I did talk to Dan Elliott the other day about Morgan County Regional Sewer District, because that's what he used to do. And my policy, 80% of why I vote for somebody is if you can get a hold of them. He answered on the second ring on yesterday or day off sort of thing, and had a great conversation. He gave me names that I need to call, and he's all excited about getting started today. And he was actually working on our New Year's holiday, getting that together. And I asked him, since you're sort of a friend of the show, will you come on in about a month and give us an update on how this job's going? And he promised he would. So me, Yay. I hold people their promises. So that's good. What do you think, Lucy? I mean, I think we could, if you were closer, we'd have you be our state.
I would love that.
They'd be running from you. They'd be running from, Lucy's going to ask us hard questions.
I would. Yeah, I absolutely would. In fact, I think it's time that we even get more serious and start really exposing the fraud that's going down in the State House. If you Google YouTube, Google my name on YouTube and Indiana State Senate, you'll see me grilling some of our senators about their connections to Big Pharma and who's paying who and who got, the award for bringing in the most money. Yeah, I'll definitely make them uncomfortable. They'll know they're in the hot seat.
Yeah, the property taxes are going to be a big issue. I mean, they just keep going up, and I really, I'm not a fan of property tax in the beginning, and I know you aren't. It's theft, and it's why should we pay more property taxes on our improving our houses? Like you get punished for it. But anyway, that's not one of our topics, but that's one that's probably going to come up. I know that one of the hosts on WIBC and Jim Lucas are in a knockdown drag out on Facebook, and of course I had to jump in there and pile on a little bit. That was worthwhile. My favorite WIBC host. Yes, Tiffany.
So do we know what's on the agenda during this session?
I saw Rod Bray at church, and I asked him, and he was excited, but I asked him about marijuana and some different things, and he just really wasn't. He's like, I'm just excited to get it started. So I think there's a little bit of infighting going on with the party, and it's going to be interesting. Let's just say that. And I do have a meeting with my senator, Mike Young, in February. And we're going to talk about the floodplain here in Mars Hill. He is recovering.
Who are you meeting with?
Michael Young, Senator Michael Young, District 35.
Oh, okay.
He's been he's my senator. So we're going to talk about the floodplain in Mars Hill. And I have that meeting February 15th. He's recovering from his second knee surgery. So he's going to be like the bionic senator with 2 new knees and all that. Yeah. You could be wearing a Wonder Woman thing and go put the lasso of truth. We'll put Lucy in the Wonder Woman costume, and she'll have that lasso of truth, and she'll go down there and rope those senators and representatives and make them tell the truth. So
I'd probably do more than lasso them, though.
You can't handle the truth.
Exactly. That's a great movie.
We can't say you. I'm sorry, but I would love to see it. But we have a lot of stuff lined up, so we'll probably try to cover some of that stuff, at least what's going on. And we have some friends at the State House now that we've been around long enough. Our 101th show, that's at 104. That's 2 years, right? 52 and 52. Man, time flies when you're having fun. But anyway, let's get to it. We have the audience here. I haven't been paying attention to the thing, so good. Nobody's asking any questions yet. So let's go on down to the next polling question. So we have like 12 questions here, and the question was, as 2022 closes, which of these do you find most important? You may add your own if it's not on the list. So I added some, and I added Queen Elizabeth passing away. So let's see how many people we had. Pretty much one person or 5% was concerned with that. They thought that was very important. So Tiffany, what do you think about the Queen? I mean, she was there for a gazillion years.
She reigned over 70 years. She's the most photographed woman in history. I think definitely, I mean, if you talk about women in leadership, I mean, there's your role model right there. I do think it's interesting her ascension to the throne, because what her uncle advocated the throne, her father became king, died early on, and she became queen at 22, 24, something like that. And I just think that it's amazing what she did and how she grew into the role. One of the things I do not like on the same subject is the Harry and Meghan stuff. It's too much.
Did you watch that? Did you watch the?
I've not watched any of it, but I hate seeing the sound bites that are out there.
Okay,
I mean, you were royalty, you married into royalty. I can't feel sorry for you.
Yeah. So, well, they're out there with the Kardashians, so maybe they'll have a show. We'll call it the Royal Kardashians or something. So, Lucy, what do you think about the Queen? I mean, I know how you love monarchies and all that, and
I just love a genetic lineage of oppressors who have ruthless ancestors that were willing to go out and conquer the world and kill innocent people so that their progeny could, be the most photographed person ever, in the history of the world.
He missed slavery. I thought you
yeah. Well, it all kinds of goes along with that. And I believe that we're all slaves. The plantation is just digital now, which makes it a little bit easier. Yeah. We're on a digital plantation.
I'm sorry I'm laughing because it's true, but I
was obviously never a fan of the Queen. And, I always wondered why the British put up with her being a parasite. And when you think about, colonialism and, all of the countries that they were in and who they oppressed and who they were still stealing from even today, it's really quite horrifying. And the cultures that they wrecked.
Yeah, well, and Izzy Izzard, I know we've played a clip from Izzy Izzard. He's a cross-dressing comedian, and he talks about England. We conquer your country because we have this flag, and they put the flag and this gun. Yes, this gun. So pretty much, the world runs by who's got the biggest gun and the most money to buy food, and unfortunately that's how it goes. That's how history is. If there's one thing you learn about history, it is that. So on to the next thing. We have Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. 1%
around the world.
1% on that one. So I don't know how much time we spent on that, but I guess I'll ask this question: do you think that was staged or was it real?
That was an Illuminati test that he had to do, just like Andrew Tate that you don't have in any of your polls. So those of you who are listening to the Andrew Tate thing, I want you to notice something. His tweet, remember the tweet that he sent out, I've got 33 luxury cars, Greta, and I'm going to send you information to your email about every single last one of them. The number 33, that's a Masonic number. That's an Illuminati number. So why was it 33 cars? Why was it 33 cars? And then when you see him coming out and he's in the police car, he's making his little triangle. So I can't even make it.
Now Lucy's got to have the Illuminati after our show. I mean, she's got the government ready to come down on us.
Well, I'm sure that some of the people that we've had on have been Masons, especially if
and
they're
you know what?
elected
I have
officials.
my dad's old Mason's book, and I didn't think he was into that part of things. You never know. I mean, he's gone now, so I can't ask him.
I grew up Mormon, and Joseph Smith, who founded Joe Smith, I like to say Joe Smith instead, who founded the Mormon Church, he went out and became a Mason, and then 90 days later, he revealed the temple ceremonies, which were supposed to be, the most correct and original according to, the Temple of Solomon and all that kind of stuff, which is total hogwash. But it's just funny how many people rip each other off through the centuries.
Yeah, well, and I got pressure from several people because I'm a Mason. I'm a real Mason. And so I had several people. Oh, you got to join. And then it got to the point where you could join the Masons, the Scottish Rite, and something else all in one day. So it's really a very interesting process. So Tiffany, what do you think about the Will Smith thing? I mean,
Oh my goodness, it's funny. It's like, oh my God, it was so long ago. It was February. Oh my gosh, so long ago.
It was.
I know, right? I just think that I don't, aside from the Illuminati, I just think that it was very unfortunate. I know that Will's been in they did this TV show. It's like the red carpet something or the red table. And I think he has very delicate mental health. And sometimes he's not around the best people. And I think there are other ways to handle anger and internal strife other than striking somebody. I think Chris Rock actually handled it very well because, according to most brown people I know, they would have been tussling.
Yeah, there'd have been shooting. I mean, it'd have been on. That'd have been like MMA.
Yeah, it would have
So
been.
that's why I mean, so do you think it wasn't staged then? You think this was an impromptu thing or?
I'd never really thought about it like that. I think it was one of those, man, you're making fun of my wife. I'm over it. She's looking at me. I'm on TV. I'm in the front row. I got to do something. And it just a lot of that built up pressure. And what am I supposed to do? I'm a man. And
toxic masculinity.
Yes, a lot of that. And
Hey,
then
easy,
he's there on the biggest night of his life. And you would expect a woman who loves you to say, baby, don't worry about it. This is your night.
Yeah, well, that wasn't the look I saw. That wasn't
exactly. It was like, and you know what I'm saying? It was one of the biggest nights of his life. And it just made me feel bad that he didn't have the support that he needed and that it just couldn't have been laughed off. Chris Rock is a comedian. Her head was shaved. The G.I. Jane 2 thing, I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey,
honest.
A lot of people get triggered these days. Speaking of triggers, the next one is overturning Roe versus Wade. Now that one got 30%. So that one's sort of a big deal. So, and I think that, I think it may have been probably the catalyst that stopped the red wave, so to speak, that we were supposed to have. And so I guess some of the questions surrounding that, how the heck does something get leaked from the Supreme Court? And what's the timing on that? And, there's a lot of stuff there that, so Lucy, what do you think about that?
I think personally that the Democrats should look at this as a fundraising gift because, now they're going to be able to raise more funds than ever. With the specter of, oh my gosh, babies might continue to live. Well, we can't have that. What if poor Black children and poor Hispanic children are born? What if rich white women, can't go kill their third or fourth child because it's inconvenient for them?
Yeah.
So
Tiffany,
Democrats.
Where are you at on that?
It comes back to a lot of like personal accountability. If you can no longer have an abortion and you're sexually active, you're not using any type of birth control, you really got to have a conversation with your partner, some of that inner dialogue. And it's like, hey, I'm doing things that can create life. I can no longer, him and haw and terminate life 6 months or, 6 weeks down the road. I hope that there increase in birth control that is used, especially if people are going to be active and they don't want to get pregnant. I just hope that people will just really do a lot of thinking before they put themselves in those kinds of situations. One of the things I think is really interesting when you do talk to some young people, when you talk, it's like some young people are so for abortion. And I'm kind of like, well, what are you doing to prevent pregnancy? And it seems like there are a lot of people who aren't doing anything to protect themselves. And I'm not just talking about like, birth control to prevent pregnancy, but like to protect yourself from germs and diseases. And I think that's one of the things that kind of gets lost in this conversation is about, well, aren't you trying to protect yourself? I mean, because these germs nowadays, they're stronger, they're more virulent. I mean, they don't respond to some things. And to me, that's far more important to protect yourself from disease and germs.
Yeah. And I think one of the things is on the other side of that is, adoption. I mean, my pastor at my church has been trying to adopt a baby for 4 years and it shouldn't cost $30,000. And, really we need to have avenues for alternative choices. But I do think that, you're starting to mess with a woman's right to her health care, so to speak, if you want to call it that. but we do have baby rights. Very tricky subject. I know we
there's proactive. There's proactive reproductive rights, and then there's reactive. And I think a lot more young women need to get on the proactive side of it. And that's all I'm saying. And I agree with you with adoption. It should be a lot easier to do. Catholic Charities, they do a lot of adoptions. They don't do as many as they used to do because of abortion, because of the morning after pill. And then some communities, people choose to have their babies. Abortion rates are very, very low in the Latino community, some African-American communities. And then some places people like have the baby and their parents raise the babies. So, it is great, I think, when families jump in to take care of these babies.
It definitely put, as you can see by our poll, it put it on the front burner. Now, the next one, I'm sort of surprised on this one, climate change, 1%. That's always a good question to get somebody. Do you believe in climate change? Well, I certainly do. And, we keep adding population. Yeah, of course we're going to have, I'm putting out 98.6 all day, every day. I'm like warming up the atmosphere right around me all day. So you got 10 billion of me's running around. That's a lot of heat. And, we put out 13 million or so cars each year. And I don't know if electric is really, much different than that. So what do you think about the climate change, Lucy? I mean, I know you're ready for it.
Well, I think climate change is something that is inextricably linked to the abortion issue on a couple of different levels that you may not see coming. First of all, when I'm confronted with, the rights of the woman versus the rights of the baby, I always say equal rights for unborn women. So the feminist trap of I'm a woman, hear me roar, I can do whatever I want. Well, don't you want the same thing for unborn women too? Because if not, you're a damn hypocrite. But on the climate change issue, Soylent Green, we are literally, I don't know if you guys have been watching the television programming. We are literally being shunted towards cannibalism. Babies have long been seen as a resource to be used for medical experimentation. Stanley Plotkin, you can look up his 9-hour-long deposition where he was grilled in a case, and he actually wrote the book on vaccination. And very, very sophisticated attorney that grilled him, that cross-examined him, and got him to admit that he had been involved with over 79 different babies. So we're not talking a small number. And of course, those babies are aborted and used as resources in China every single day. But we can't let this go to waste. I mean, they're going to have you eating humans soon. They're going to have you convinced that cannibalism is a way that is socially responsible and sustainable to not let that resource for food go. I promise you that the elites are already eating babies.
Oh man!
If you don't know, then let's talk about that.
That's. I think I'm a little uncomfortable. I want to move on that one. But I did see the movie Soylent Green or whatever.
Soylent Green, Charlton Heston. Wasn't it set in 2022 or 2023?
When it happened, it's so wow. Some of these conspiracies actually come true, right? Is that what you're saying? So Tiffany, you're 100%. Muted. What do you got? I can't unmute you, Tiffany.
Sorry.
Oh, I think I muted you that time.
Climate change didn't resonate very high with people. I think it's really interesting until people are on board with not littering. I think that the idea of climate change is a little too much. It's like,
yeah, we need commercials back for littering, and
when you drive around and you see litter on the ground and you see people littering, it's like, wow, like the idea of a hole in the ozone layer, the dirty ocean, there not being enough resources for your grandchildren. Some people they're not thinking. They're thinking that the stoplight is where I throw my McDonald's bag out of the car. And cigarette butts are supposed to go out the window. I mean, we got tomorrow issues.
Yeah, I was at a stoplight. The other day, and the door opens in front of me, and they took one of those Starbucks glass thing and set it on the ground, shut their door, and drove away. I'm like, well, I mean, at least throw it out. If you're going to litter, I mean, don't try to be
Look,
responsible.
John, if somebody loses their property, you've got to return it to them. You should have absolutely picked that up and chucked it at them through their
That's how
window
you
and
get
returned.
shot here in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Oh,
That's
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
you don't honk, you don't look, you don't wave, you just drive. That's what we do here.
And
So
that's why I don't live there anymore.
yeah,
That's
well,
just pathetic.
it's not who you know, it's how fast you can run. So all right. So let's see. Next question. We got to get through these things. We're doing inflation now. This is another big one. This was 30% on the inflation. So in our poll, our people over politics, we have a somewhat diverse a group on there. I know my cousin Mary. She's quite liberal. She's a old English teacher that is retired, and she has left-leaning views. And she weighs in. So I know that we're not just all strictly one way or the other, but inflation seems to be getting everyone. I mean, I noticed that, that things are more like a dozen of eggs. It's like the best time to have chickens now, Lucy, because it's like $4 for a dozen of eggs. It's like, which is about where it should be. Because if you're raising chickens, you know how hard it is to take care of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It cost me 40 cents per egg to produce an egg.
Yeah, I know. It's like, how do they do it for that cheap back in the day? Not now, but back in the day, how they do that. But I know people that have they have 9,000 chickens in one barn. That's a lot of chickens.
That's a lot.
And then they have 5 barns of them. So, that's bad. So what do you think about inflation, Tiffany? Is it affecting your life?
I spend a lot more at the pump. Groceries are expensive. It's interesting. I remember when I was in the Air Force and I lived in Montgomery, Alabama. They built a super Walmart across the street from my apartment complex, and I was like, damn, every time I go in there, I spend $50. That was in 98, 99. It's like, damn, every time I spend $50, every time. And then like Target, 20 years later, it's like every time you go to Target, I spend $100. And now, you go to the grocery store, you spend $100, you walk out with like 2 bags, and you might have like a little bit of meat. But one of the things I think might be good about inflation, hopefully, Americans will stop wasting food. We will buy what we need and we will eat what we get. And then also, I have to imagine that people will have to start cutting back. I mean, the days of, having tons of food and, I would like to think that there would be less waste and maybe America might lose a bit of weight. But I do know that probably 20 years from now, when I'm a grandma and my grandkids come over and I'm on a fixed income, having a soda at Grandma Tiffany's house will probably be a big thing.
A big thing. I got news for you. Tip. It's going to be about 10 years, not 20. You're going to have grandkids. I'm just saying. I know that you got a daughter in college, and college means marriage. Marriage means kids. Ask Lucy.
But did you ever go visit your grandparents and they would have things and it would be like a delicacy?
Oh, 2 Cokes a day. We were allowed 2 Cokes a day. That's all we could have. And it was like, but we couldn't have any at home. So,
and if you figure, if you're on a fixed income, I mean, those are the people who are really feeling it. People who are on fixed incomes, people who the government provides for, they're going to be okay. But people on fixed incomes, people who are working paycheck to paycheck, what does Lucy call it? A regressive tax, a tax on the middle class. Inflation is really, really hurting people, and it's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well,
and unfortunately, Dorn's weighing in on that. Inflation is a tax, so I know that you're going to come out at it. So let's go.
Well, I'd really just like to, put in a good word for the Constitution, which says that, gold and silver shall be used to pay debts. And our founding fathers, they already knew what happened when you started printing paper money. And I like to, share with people in 1913, when the Federal Reserve was started, the word dollar means 1/20th of an ounce of gold. So 20 rectangles equaled 1 ounce of gold. Well, what's gold now? $1,800. So 1,800 pieces of paper for that same 1 ounce of gold. 20 pieces of paper versus 1,800. The thing that's so insidious about inflation and what they've done to us in the last couple of years, and obviously Trump did this too with his spending and stimulus bills, Biden just did it even bigger, is the fact that it takes a little bit for that new money to ripple into the market. So the people that are getting the biggest benefit of this, the politicians, their friends who lobby them, Northrop Grumman, all of those people and corporations that get that money right away, even before the taxpayers did. Remember how many people didn't get their stimulus checks and how they were delayed? So they got the head start on being able to spend that money while it still had a relatively higher value. 6 months, 12 months later, we've seen our groceries go up even more. But those capital expenditures for their buddies, that they lobbied for, I'm telling you, they got such a huge benefit relative to what we're getting now with inflation. So what is it? It's just another corporate welfare program, whole bunch of corporate welfare whores.
Well, we had
John,
go ahead.
what do you think a dollar is worth? What's a dollar worth? Maybe about what, 67 cents?
Oh, it's less than that.
No, it's 0.02.
Yeah, Lucy just talked about it. Was
20
for an ounce of
20
gold, now it's
rectangles versus
18.
I'm
1800.
talking about like buying power. Like,
Yeah,
when
20
you get
divided by
I bet you
1800 part
that's-
divided by the whole 0.0111.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Everything, we just used the eggs were $1.50. Now they're $4. So it's basically, in that case, it's 50% less.
Yeah, 2
of
years
what
ago,
it is.
eggs were 79 cents at Aldi's.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, so, and that's just one thing. You talked about filling up your tanks. I have to fill up my equipment with diesel, and it's 5 something a gallon. We talk about gas prices going down, but diesel's gone down. It was almost $6 a gallon there. Now it's still over 5.
It was over 8 in California.
Difference. Oh yeah,
because everything is worse in California.
They hate cars, and they really hate diesel cars and trucks. So that's that. But we had Reagan had trickle down economics, and I believe now we have trickle up. But in both of those cases, the rich people end up with the money, because the poor people get it, and who spends money better than poor people? Poor people. So it trickles back up. And I remember John Wayne did a interview in '75. I was a Dick Cavett or one of those guys, and they were talking about money and inflation and how it works and how our society works. He says, "Well, Pilgrim, put 20 men in a room and give them each $5 and come back in 10 years, and one of the SOBs will have all the money." And that's pretty much how it works. We got the Bill Gates, Elon Musk, we got the Bezos, we got, you put those 3 guys together, they could buy probably about 8 or 10 countries or more. If you wanted, if you're playing Monopoly, you could buy.
But remember, you've got a difference here between short-term thinking and long-term thinking. The people that are rich, those are family dynasties. Bill Gates's dad was a very powerful attorney that hung around with Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood. Those people have been trying to kill humanity from the beginning. In fact, Margaret Sanger is famous for working with Black preachers to get Black people to reduce the number of them, because she saw Black people as a blight on the earth. I mean, it's just, the eugenics program. She said that people like me that wear glasses, we should be cold. And of course, tens of thousands of Hoosiers and other young people, mostly women in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, were even into the 60s and some 70s with the American Indian programs on reservations. Women were sterilized. Yep, women were sterilized.
If they had a mental illness, and
what's a mental illness? Because you fight back against the patriarchy. I mean, I'm being a little bit, social justice warrior.
Put them in the padded room if they don't agree. Yeah, I agree with that. So let's move on.
Well-behaved women rarely make history.
Let's move on to this next one. The war in Ukraine at 1%. So it does.
Again,
the wealth transfer in Ukraine.
February.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it's still going. So, I mean, it's one of the events of 2022, and looks like it's going to be in 2023. And, and I'll pose the question. So say we invade Mexico. Let's say we invade Mexico, and we want to go down there and take out some cartels, whatever. We want to go down there and get some good tacos. Whatever the reasoning is, we invade Mexico, and Russia starts giving Mexico a bunch of money to fight us. Do you think we'd be mad at that? Do you think our country, would we be hopping mad?
Russia's not really.
I don't know. Did 10% go to the big guy or not? Because if it did, we're not mad.
No, wait,
right?
we have one of those
Biden arranged it on his laptop.
Right.
Yeah, Tiffany got so excited she muted herself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was typing really fast.
Yeah, he was like, make sure you get your laptop from the repair place. Don't let them find it.
Right, pick it up. But I was listening to a podcast on Fox, and they were talking about him and his laptop, and they were saying, and they were definitely not Biden fans, but they just kept saying that that Hunter Biden was so much of a crackhead that he was very, very forgetful. And if they said crackhead one time in that podcast, they said it probably 75 times. But they just said that he, on this laptop, they were like, he made videos and took pictures of everything. He documented so many different things, and that he was notorious for getting new electronic devices and forgetting passwords because they could look in like his history and stuff. And they just kept calling him a crackhead. And I was just like, wow.
Well, I haven't heard
like
the
that's,
term.
that's like something that like you call somebody in the family, like, your cousin's a crackhead.
Yeah.
They weren't even like lowering their voice. They were like, well, Hunter Biden's a crackhead. And it was just like, whoa, like that, those are heavy words.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard the word crackhead since Mayor Marion Barry was, involved with stuff that, so yeah, it's
a social user.
a term you hear every day. So, Lucy, what do you think? How do we get on that? We have Hunter
Ukraine
Biden coming up,
Ukraine.
but we're off Ukraine, and
Weapons.
I think we'd be awful mad if Russia was pumping money. I mean, look at the Cuban Missile Crisis when they were messing around with that, how mad everybody got. So I don't
Russia's not our friend. Nothing that Russia does should surprise us. And one of the things, it's like the other thing that happened right when the Ukrainian war started, that's when Brittany Griner was detained. So there was a lot going on back then,
Didn't put her on the list, but
yeah,
it probably should be. I mean, but we could probably do a whole show on that one. So, Lucy, what do you think about the Ukraine thing? You think, we give them a bunch of money. Russia's not going to be pleased with that.
It's just a proxy war. The reason that we have wars is because wars are profitable. You're manufacturing ammunition, you're manufacturing all kinds of expensive planes. So once again, it benefits the people who are, manufacturing all of this stuff. Northrop Grumman, McAllister, all the big defense budget people. What would happen to their stock prices, and the insider trading that goes along with those? What would happen to that? Profits would be lost. We must send your young men off to war, and your young women now too.
I found it cute that Elizabeth Warren put out a statement about the insider trading thing that we should all. I was like, okay.
It's literally enshrined to make it legal for the Congress people to do their insider trading. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just a given, and it's not illegal. I mean, that's the thing. It's
not for them.
Not illegal.
Not for them.
Not for them. Here's
laws
one
for thee and not for me.
Election 2022. That was a 2%er.
What was? I'm sorry.
Midterms elections, just how the red wave didn't happen and it really wasn't.
Hey, it did in Fishers.
Do we know if it didn't happen or if it really did happen and there was, some shenanigans?
Yeah, they're still fighting out that governor thing out there in Arizona. And, you hear, there's this and that. And, and the governor, I guess they inaugurated her this morning. There I go, Tiffany, making up some words again. And she was laughing during the ceremony. And I think that's okay. She was happy. You can laugh. Maybe some people said it was disrespectful, but we need a little more laughter in government because it keeps us from crying. So, that's one big thing. So what do you think about the 2022? I know libertarians made some gains in some areas and it's the Republicans and Democrats are sure leaving the door open. So now's your chance, Lucy.
Well, we have a lot of elected libertarians in this state and across the country. Looking forward to taking more elected positions next year. Well, 2024, because people are quite frankly, the more that's exposed, the more that they realize that they've been had. And so they can't continue to give their votes to Republicans or Democrats. They're two faces of the same coin. There's, the bipartisanship is so funny to me. Are you going to be bipartisan and work across the aisle? Yeah, you're going to collude together to steal money from me. And you're going to act, in public like there's, some sort of tension and hatred between you two. And then you go have dinner and collude against me some more. We get it.
Yeah. Okay. Tiffany, before you answer, this is a side, this isn't in that list of things, but this is a statement I put up and asked people to give me their true or false on. Politicians in office tell us everything is just hunky-dory. It's not the reality in my neighborhood, yet folks are unwilling to vote because they just don't think it matters. P.S. Doesn't matter which party's in power. The GOP is a party of bad ideas and the Dems are a party of no ideas. 76% said that was true. 12% false, 12% not sure. What do you think about that? Is that that goes right along with what Lucy said about a lot of people just not really feeling the parties?
So, okay, if you're not feeling the parties, I just think that people have to think about where do you live? Are you happy where you live? Do you feel safe? Are there jobs? Is it clean? Do your kids go to good schools? And if you're happy with where you live and everything that's going on, then the powers that are around you are wonderful. You do not need to get involved. If you're not happy, if the cops are beating people to death, if every murder is ruled natural causes, if your kids aren't learning in school, if you feel like your kids have special needs, nothing is happening, if there's no jobs in your community, no revitalization, lots of broken windows, no sidewalks, if you think your community can be better, then you have to do something. You either move or you invest in your community. One of the things that I think is interesting is sometimes when people can be so uninvolved that by the time they decide to get involved, things are so bad and there's so much emotion tied to it that it's no longer a civil conversation. It's not showing up at a board meeting. It's like, oh my God, tar and pitchforks, everybody's got to go. And that's one of the things that's really gradual. So it's hard to help people understand that civic involvement at every stage of your life is very, very important. At least knowing what's going on in your communities. But if you're happy where you live and everything's perfect, keep your head in the sand. But if you're not, you've got to do something. And if you don't want to pick a party, then you've got to be that loud, squeaky voice. You go to your city council meetings, you go to your school board meetings, you're part of the PTO, you're showing up, you're advocating for your for your children, you're advocating for your own health care. If you're not happy, if you do not subscribe to either party or any of the three parties, then you've got to be your own advocate.
Yeah, and like you're running for the Fishers Council. You're picking up that torch and you're going to carry it. Lucy, do you think that the apathy of voters is stretched to a limit? I mean, for an example, the midterms in 2018 here in Marion County, we had 80,000 less vote in the midterms in 2022. So I know that our population has not really gone down. The voter rolls mysteriously are the same exact number that we had last time. Nobody's moved or died or anything. I mean, it's just the same. Yeah. So do you think that voter apathy is, maybe one of the main components in
well, it is, but I think if we talk about things, like cognitive biases, I'm thinking specifically of normalcy bias. People think that things are going to just continue the way they have. And in Indiana, we have that biggest of all evils, which is the straight ticket voting. So not only do they get to be apathetic, but they get to be lazy as well. And some of them don't even, bother to come and vote. They just let the Democrats do it for them by, writing in.
Yeah, well, we could talk about that all day. So let's see the next thing we have. Okay, I got to go back to the poll here. We're making about halfway through, and let's see how fast we can finish up some of these other ones. So then we have January 6th, 1%. So that's something that, it pretty much was entire 2022. They just, and what's going to come of that, Tiffany? What do you think anything's going to come out and all this stuff? It's just a nothing burger.
Well, it's the witch hunt against Donald Trump. Hopefully they get what they get and they get enough information and they can, prevent him from running for president again. Cause I think that's pretty much what they're trying to do. Maybe they'll find the smoking gun that they're looking for. But one thing I will tell you, and I think I said this on the show after we went to the Capitol a couple months ago, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like the security, there was no security in that building. It's one of the easiest places to get into and infiltrate. And it just really killed me that that this event happened, but their security, you've got our country's leaders there and you just completely lost control of the building. That's
and there was 300,000 people 300,000
But
people.
that's the thing. This is the thing, is that, like, why would you let 300,000 people congregate that close? I mean, you set up a perimeter. It's just like It's just like when we left Afghanistan. Where's your perimeter? Where are your people? Where are your sentries? Where are the lines of defense? If it comes down to a security guard in the hallway of the rotunda stopping thousands of people, you have a bigger problem. So
It's
my
like
issue with January 6th is that, like, everybody in leadership at the Capitol should have been fired. Oh my gosh. And the smoking gun will be in the emails between those leaders and what they told those guards who were working that day. You can tell by the way they were standing there when people were coming by, the guy with the furry vest and the horns, the security guard standing there with his hands in his pocket. No security guard ever stands with his hands in his pocket. And they were watching people come through, and they were probably told, we're going to have some people through the building today. Don't worry about it. Just let them through. I mean, like, the smoking gun is the emails between leadership and probably the White House or somebody else. I mean,
I think that, it's like Kevin Bacon in Animal House when he's trying to stop the crowd. Remain calm, and they run over him. And you got to be. Oh, that's 1978, so maybe not everybody's seen Animal House. So, Lucy, what do you think about that fiasco? Do you think the libertarians would ever put up with anything like that?
Well, first of all, the libertarians wouldn't have done something so weak. If you're going to take over a country, damn it, if you're going to topple a government, you don't do it by having, a museum tour day through the Capitol.
I didn't expect that was coming that way, but I appreciate it.
Some OG libertarians, also known as classic liberals.
We're not going to condone violence on this show, but if
I'm just going to the throwback to the OG classic liberals, aka libertarians that started this country. At some point you have to stop them from stealing from you.
Yeah.
And
I wonder when enough's going to be enough. And, in Indiana, we got people coming after property, and, we got a $6 billion surplus, and I feel like we're getting overtaxed, and, all that. So let's go on to the next one. We got a couple here. I'm going to group these together. CJ Moore, Chris Moore, friend of the show. He has he has the Your Voice, Your Call show. Overall crooked government, 1%. And then he has child trafficking, well, that's 12%. So the overall crooked government, I wouldn't really talk about that one. But what about child trafficking? I think that's one of the dirty little secrets that, and I always say that people don't want to talk about it because it's so disgusting and it's just uncomfortable. But it seems like it just pops up like whack-a-mole. It'll come up, somebody will say something about something, and it'll go back down, and then it'll come back up, and it'll go back down. But and it never seems to be anybody actually getting hauled in for it. You got these speculations of Epstein's Island and all this other stuff, but you never really see the pizza place. What was the pizza place out there in Washington D.C.?
Comet Pizza.
Yeah. You don't ever. Nothing ever comes of it. So, the child sex trafficking is really an issue that I really want to spend a lot of time with, but we probably should spend because it is an uncomfortable topic. So that being said, let's see if we can ruin your political career tonight, Tiffany, by answering that question.
Sorry. I was on mute. So, I sat through a presentation. It was a lady from the FBI and a lady who's with the Indy Special Victims, and we talked about like trafficking, and it's here, it's real. There are people who go out to local bars and they'll try to prey on young women. It is true. Even more trafficking occurs when those children are brought across the border. So there are different things. There's a lot of heads on this beast. And I do think it's unfortunate that it kind of ebbs and flows in terms of popularity. But I definitely think securing the border is a really great way to get some kids out of trafficking. And again, we've got to teach our young women to look out for each other. You can't get comfortable in your surroundings if you don't know people. Stranger danger. It doesn't change when you're 5 years old or when you're 21 years old. There are people who want to prey on women. It's really horrible.
Yeah, I wonder about the clientele, because there's a supply and there's a demand on that. And Lucy, what do you think about that? And then we're gonna get to the small talk.
as I was watching the Canadian truckers, aka cowboys, I mean, what is better to be, a trucker than a cowboy? You know, the analogy for current day. I found it fascinating that Trudeau was able to get the banks to cut the Canadian truckers off. And so even their wives were not able to go swipe the card at the grocery store, you know, 2 or 3 provinces away. And they did that all with facial recognition cameras. But we still don't know who's on Epstein's list. We still don't know.
I mean, there has got to be some powerful, Tiffany, you're muted, but there's got to be some powerful people on there to be able to suppress that list.
They are raping little boys and girls. Heck, George, what's his name? The subway guy.
Oh, Jared.
I want to say Jordan. Jared, the subway guy, was raping little boys and girls and taking junkets over to Thailand or wherever. And yes, he's in prison, but there's not enough public outcry about this because everybody has normalcy bias. It's not going to happen to me. It's not going to happen to my kid.
And I think they're uncomfortable. I mean, I really think it is just it's icky, and it's, you know, you just really don't want to think that there's those things going on, but there is, and you would think we would have. We wouldn't have the stomach
for
Ephesians,
right? It's Ephesians. We're not wrestling against, you know, flesh and blood. We're wrestling against people in the highest places. And until we take on that spiritual war, and our tax dollars are funding this. I think it's Arizona, there is a medical kidnapping every 60 seconds where a child is taken through CPS for an alleged medical reason. That could be that they're medically negligent because they didn't vaccinate their kid. There is a real famous case. Her name was Justine, I want to say Pelt. Now my subconscious won't give it. I'll have to get it to you later. But she was a young lady with a mitochondrial disorder up in the Eastern Seaboard. And normally she would go to, you know, the hospital in Maine or wherever she's from. But for some reason, she went down to Boston Children's Hospital, which has a very bad reputation for severing parents' rights. And this was a girl that was in dance classes. She was, you know, doing very well under parents.
Please. I mean, yeah.
And you know what happened is after she got to Boston Children's Hospital, they kidnapped her. They said that her mitochondrial disorder was psychosomatic, that it was all in her head. And they took her off treatment, and it took her parents about 2 years to fight back through the court systems. Her parents could not enter the hospital to see her. You know, they would be arrested and dragged out. She was kept behind lock and key. Why does this happen? Well, it's all money.
I put up a comment from John Jacob here. He was in the Indiana House, and he was a big anti-abortionist, and
yes, John Jacobs is awesome. We love you, John.
You know, and he really didn't get it didn't make any headlines there. Let's put it that way. There was no stomach for that type of thing. But so we're going to go to small talk now because I want to forget to do it. And I think this has gone swimmingly well tonight. We've covered a lot of ground here. You're excellent giving your points on this. So let's see if we can keep the ball rolling here with Mark Small. I have not even seen this. So this is all a first time for everybody to see it. So let's see what our friend Mark Small has to say.
Hi, Mark Small. It's a small talk for January 3rd, 2023. For those of you out there who wondered why Dante's Inferno was called the Divine Comedy, there are others of you out there who probably are wondering who's Dante and what was Divine Comedy. It's a depiction of a trip through hell. It was written in the Middle Ages. The reason it was called a comedy was because Dante wrote it in common language, and so that was held to be kind of a comedy, whereas high drama and everything was in a different category all its own. So I'm looking back on 2022 and wondering, what was there that was funny, you know? And then I had to think about, might have been a trip through hell at times. We were looking at June, and all of a sudden Roe versus Wade is overturned. And then we're hearing about how the Republican Party is going to have a massive red wave. And it turned out that a lot more people were pissed off about Roe versus Wade being overturned and women's rights being taken away. But I'm going to stick with the comedic element there. Oh, yeah, that's right. And then in 18 years, roughly, violent crime rates will go up again, since unwanted children who would be otherwise aborted aren't there to commit those violent offenses. Normally 18-year-old males start peaking on that. Of course, we go for birth control, but that would be interfering with some people's religious freedom, that even though this is a secular country, they can still do that. Now, I might be criticized for being somewhat short on knowledge of science. I dispute that, but I sure as hell am not short on knowledge of the Constitution and the history of this country in that regard. And so, as we start 2023, I look at it and I think, will we really have a comedy? It's possible. I don't know. But I can tell you this. When it came to art, about 90 years ago, there was a minister of propaganda and popular enlightenment in a European country who wanted to bring the art of his government to the forefront. And they opened up a museum for that and relegated the comedy and the artwork of the other classes to a shabby building down the street. That was the place that got overwhelmed because people wanted to see the art there. Because sadly enough, or perhaps comedically enough, people on the far right didn't have that much of a sense of humor then. I don't know that they do now. Mark Small Talk, January 3rd, 2023, peace, love, happiness. No.
So yeah, he called the right out there at the end about being oversensitive, and I'm like, okay. So did you get anything out of that? I mean, I thought he was going to explain Dante's Inferno, but we didn't get that.
I didn't see any cats, so but it's always nice to see Mark.
I think he's just name dropping because he wants to look smart again.
Okay, that's. But we always appreciate his point of view, and hopefully he's correct, and we do have some comedy for 2023 because it looks like we have most of our stuff on this deal. Or here's one for you. For instance, society lost their damn minds. And this is Mike King. He's a kid that grew up with me in the neighborhood. He lives in Texas now. And is Michael Big Country King. 2% agreed with that. And then while we're down in Texas, we can look at the border crossings and fentanyl. I know we touched on that a little bit about the trafficking, but it's not just kids, it's drugs and people. And I hear that it's $8,000 to $10,000 to get smuggled across the border. And if you think about, we're doing 1,000 a day, that's real money. So it's and if you don't choose one of those routes, then you're in danger and peril. So what do you think about say the border and the fentanyl? It doesn't look like people in our group thought that was terribly important. I think they probably thought it was important, but not the most important thing. So Lucy, I'll catch you when you're getting a drink. See how I did that?
Good.
That's a good host does that to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, you got to pay attention for those social signals. Let's face it, as long as there's a black market, there's going to be black operations and undercover operations. And how else is the CIA going to fund its illegal activities? So we can't have legalized or decriminalized drugs because that would take it away.
Yeah. So Tiffany, what do you think is the reasoning why there's not very much attention on the border? I mean, we've seen this Title 42.
Because so what they're doing is like, let as many people through the border as possible. Let's create a pathway to citizenship so that we can just create more and more Democratic voters.
There you go. That's in rebuttal to Mark Small's comment about the right. So there, we got him back.
I mean, like, what are we doing? So my thing is that, like, if it were your yard, you would put up a fence. People have doors. People have storm doors. People lock their doors. You're telling me that a country cannot secure its borders? Country does not want to secure its borders. We're creating a situation where people are walking miles and miles and miles, bringing their kids. They're coming with people who will shoot them if they can't take another step, shoot their kids, drown them in the river. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible situation. But the only reason they're coming is because they know that they get here, they can get across the border. And I really struggle with thinking that somebody who crosses the border and then they're like, hey, you need to come back on this date for court. They'd be like,
You're not coming back. Yeah, I'll be right over. Well, I'm starting to see, people in the homeless, so we're serving the homeless that have come here with that, hey, the American dream, you can get a job. And, if you don't have a social security number and all that, now there is, I mean, you didn't hear it here, but there is people that hire people for cash and don't pay taxes. They'll find another way to do that but there's only a limit of those. When we're flooding the system with that many people, there's just not enough jobs. I mean, and I'm in construction, and
so a
I
lot
go
of
on the
people
job,
don't
and
know. So the thing is that, like, if you've got like this labor, and if you got a labor pool that's going to work for a lot less, I mean, that's going to mess up a lot of true citizens who, all of a sudden you come in and you want $15 an hour to cover, your pay and your benefits. I can get somebody else to do it for 10 or for 7. I mean, it just messes up that whole system. And the thing is, and it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt poor people. It's going to hurt brown people who work those jobs, white people who work those jobs. And I think a lot of people they don't understand the unintended consequences of having more people come across the border. It's kind of like when you have a party and you're like, wow, I'm planning for 100 people. I've got RSVPs for 100 people. Oh my goodness, somebody brought a busload of people with them. I don't have enough food. I don't have enough drink. The bathroom situation, I cannot accommodate people just continuing to come. And I'm not holding them responsible. I mean, like if in your channels, people are like, hey, let's walk to America. We can get in there. We'll get some jobs. The poorest American has it better than 99% of the rest of the people on the globe. So I can't blame them for wanting to come here. I blame an administration that will not secure the border. It can't be that hard.
Well, but
I'm mom from Fishers. It can't be that hard.
When we send Lucy down there, and stuff would be straightened out. I can tell you that right now.
Well, I'm a libertarian, so
I believe together. I will get some shit fixed.
I believe in the free movement of people across borders, because borders are just imaginary lines on a map. I don't see any human as being illegal. Now, there's some very practical considerations. If you have a country and you have people coming and going, you should know who they are, and you should be able to screen them. And if they have diseases, help them and get them treatment. If they're criminals, find some way to send them back to wherever they came from, if there's any way of doing that. But as Coleman says, we do have a shortage of workers. And, the fact that Americans now don't seem to want to work at all, following the stimulus training, if you go 6 months without working, you lose the habit of getting up and going to work. Think about how hard it is to send the kids
remotely.
back to school. Yeah. So,
well,
you know what? I'm in favor of people being able to leave this country too. Do you know how many people try to leave this country and the IRS follows them and taxes them for a decade? I mean, I've got like very practical advice for people. Sovereign man.
Gold.
Yeah, exactly. International man, sovereign man. There's a couple of different people out there that are actually teaching you how to be an international, nomad. What do they call it? Prior taxpayer, PTers, prior taxpayers.
Yeah, expatriates.
Yeah,
that's what.
It's very difficult to leave the U.S.
At Costa Rica and Panama, there's a lot of expatriates, and actually, you can get your Social Security sent to go with you now.
Sure.
And in Costa Rica, you could live at the hotter level, the middle cooler, or if you go up higher, it's even better. So you got to pick your climate. I'm like, what could go wrong? And I make friends easily. It'd be great. It'd be great to go there.
You'd stand out though, John. You're pretty tall. That's why I've never emigrated down there.
But there's good snook fishing.
I don't blend.
Yeah,
Gringo Grande.
Yeah, Gringo John. I know a little Spanish now. Don't get me wrong on that one. But we back in the day, we had Hungarians that built pipelines. We had Chinese that built railroads. We've had all sorts of Irish in New York that did everything. We've always had immigration to build our country. But I think Tiffany hit it on the head when we have an uncontrollable flow with it just overwhelms the system. And you see these folks down in Texas and Arizona that are, trying to put up, those shipping containers to make a makeshift wall. I mean, the government's supposed to take it down. Well, we're not going to do anything about it, but just take it down because you can't do that. I see a lot of people really getting frustrated with this when they're so frustrated that they send a busload to Kamala Harris's house or Martha's Vineyard or whatever. And then people say, oh, don't use them as a political pawn. I don't know what you do to get somebody's attention, but at some point, when it gets in your yard, like you said, Tiffany, you put a fence in your yard, that's when it becomes real. It's not real till then. So let's go to the next one here, and we're gonna this one was added. Hunter Biden smoking crack. We've already talked about that one. Let's do two of them together. This is Jerry Rowe and Penny Bigelow. Basically, school indoctrination of children being indoctrinated in public schools and libraries. So let's talk about that. That was, it was about 2% on each. So what is it? I mean, I've done some substitute teaching, and I didn't see any of this CRT and SELs and all that. I just saw a lot of bad management that wouldn't let teachers teach. So and it's not bad management. Let me rephrase that. I saw so many rules that had to be followed that it was very difficult to do your job. Let's put it that way. I don't think that was fair to the administration, other than the fact that they have to administer these, that they have to manage these rules. So what do you think about, let's just put that into the broader scheme of things of indoctrination. Do we have that?
I would go ahead, Lucy.
I was going to say, why would you let your enemies educate your children?
Well, okay. that pretty much spoke for itself there. Tiffany.
I would say in the broader scheme of things, parents may not think that their kids are being indoctrinated, but when you look at what's being normalized, what's being praised, what's being taught, what's being pursued, it's the exact opposite of things that are going to make a healthy, productive generation of leaders and workers who will be able to continue our country. I think and some of the things that the kids are doing in school, like they're furries, questioning their gender, things of that nature. Maybe it's normal, but at some point, I don't think any employer is going to be like, well, hey, cats, here's a men's bathroom, here's a women's bathroom, there's a litter box over there for those of you who want to do that. I just think that we are overly accommodating these children in schools. Our test scores aren't where they're supposed to be. I think that there are going to be some unintended consequences down the road. I've had 2 high school interns over the last 2 years. One of them was with me for an entire year. I parted ways with the other one a couple of months ago. But these children, they don't understand a lot about how the world works, starting at the bottom, learning, doing different things. Everybody wants to be the CEO right now. So there are things that they're missing in school about how the world works. And then also you mentioned the libraries. Yes, the other part of that agenda is normalizing what they see in terms of sexuality. There's books at our library. I'm on the library board, and they're books that are supposed to be about reproduction, but they're not about reproduction. They're overly graphic, and they're depicting sex acts between people who it has absolutely nothing to do with reproduction. Reproduction hasn't changed in thousands of years. And so
it's working pretty well.
Right. So I have a hard time with some of the materials in the library because it's not biology. This is indoctrination. This is exposing people. It's sexualizing children. And I will always be in favor of having books in the library on all topics. Dewey Decimal sets that scale. He sets that map for us. Dewey Decimal accounts for everything, but some things are not appropriate for children, and they need to be in the adult section. And anybody who's got children who are 5 to 15 years old, you need to look over your kids' shoulders and see the kind of books that they're reading. There are books called graphic novels. It looks like Captain Underpants, but it is sexual content. It is things that are way above their levels, and they're written for reluctant readers. So parents, just take some time. Parents, grandparents, just look over their shoulders, look in their backpacks, understand what they're checking out.
And the antidote for that is Tuttle Twins. So if you have not discovered the Tuttle Twins, I invite you to go find them. They were even insulted and besmirched by CNN, so they're legit.
Okay, good. Well, and my biggest thing that I've noticed is anxiety. Is you got to be safe. And even if you look at some of our commercials, they talk about how many therapists that you can get online. And it just seems like we're raising kids to be very anxious. And some of that is from, how some of the parents have handled, the pandemic, or, what's going on outside. They just really don't handle that very well. And that their kids see that.
So, John, I like your point about the anxiety. And what I see is that, like, I know for me, like, I'll get butterflies in my tummy. I'll get nervous, like my mouth will get dry. And those are the times when I know that I'm nervous, but you've got to walk toward it. If you don't walk toward some of these things that give you anxiety, being scared, not wanting to deal with people, then you're going to be a victim forever. I mean, at some point, you just got to, tighten your abs and pull up your big girl panties, and you've got to walk toward it. You just really, really do. I mean, there's no amount of medication. I mean, you can do tons of therapy.
No,
like even if you have like agoraphobia, sometimes you just simply have to step outside, and you have to face the things that you think are going to hurt you. I know it may not work for everybody, but 90% of the time, some of these things, it's just all in your head, and it may be real in your head, but until you confront it, you're just going to be a prisoner. And these children, they can't live like that.
Yeah, it's not being a kid. I mean, when you're a kid, you're supposed to be happy and free. And I mean, when I was a kid, I'd climb up to the very top of the tree and swing back and forth. And we were immortal. And now I think a lot of kids are scared to be kids. So Lucy, what were you going to say?
Let's go back to the diet. Most kids are eating processed foods. They're eating junk foods. They're eating fast foods because
Mountain Dew and Fritos.
Yeah, Mountain Dew and Snickers, Mountain Dew and Doritos, hot flaming Cheetos or whatever. The fact of the matter is we are a nation that is nutritionally deprived. If you are having a problem with anxiety, you should be looking at things like magnesium, your B vitamins. You should be looking at herbs like ashwagandha, astragalus, as Tiffany was doing the commercial earlier.
Hey,
right
doesn't that astragalus make your pee smell funny? Oh, that's asparagus.
Asparagus.
Yeah, that's me and the big words you use on here.
And by the way, pansies are edible, but but they're also a diuretic.
What'd you call me?
Pansy.
That's Tiffany's job.
Right? Somebody put in the comments about Instagram hurting kids, and I promise if Zuckerberg and Instagram and TikTok, if those people cared about children, they wouldn't measure likes, they would measure impressions. So if you're on LinkedIn, and when you post on LinkedIn, you can see how many people saw it and how many people liked it. The difference between the like and the views, that's called haters.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm going to look at that. I'll have a complex next show.
No. If you have like a business page, and you can go out, you can post something, and you post a video, you can see how many people viewed your video, and then you can see how many people liked it. And I think that gives people a better idea about how their information and content is traveling on social media. It doesn't matter who liked it. It matters who saw it. And until people change that mindset, they're going to be victims of social media. Like these high schoolers. Yeah. You know why people hate you? Because they all saw your crap. You know what I'm saying? It's like they don't hate you. They saw your stuff. Yeah, they're your fans.
Yeah. Well, it's a highlight reel. I mean, we all do it. We put our best picture. I'll take a picture of me. I go, man, who is that dude? Nobody can see that picture. And then I'll change my angle a little bit. No, that's better. But I'm not going to put the worst stuff out there. It's a highlight reel. And I think a lot of people think, oh, look how great that person is. Look, they're doing this, and the vacation pictures and all. They just must be wonderful people. And I think that, I think people that don't have that, or we start examining ourselves, it's that big C word, comparison. It causes anxiety. And here we go all back. Last question, and then we're going to do conspiracy. The vaccine mandates ending. That's a good one to end our conversation on. What do you think about that? I know what Lucy's thinking about it. And, right now we're seeing some results of, died suddenly. You see that hashtag a little bit more now. Are people that get vaccinated, are they sort of looking over their shoulder like, am I next? Or what?
They should be.
What do we got going on?
We are the long-term data. So like people who are not vaccinated, we are the control group, and everybody else who got vaccinated, I mean, like they're the other arm of the study. And we are watching long-term data appear around us.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yeah, well, and now since like April, 60% vaccinated people are coming down with COVID and only 40% of unvaccinated. Now you could argue and say, well, that's because the other 20% died, but I don't think that's the case at all. I just think that it was better to have contracted it or you don't get it than it was to say protect yourself for a shorter period of time and that vaccine wears off, then you get it. And some people may even argue that the variant that they're giving you is what you're getting. So I mean, there's a lot of different variables here, and that's what makes it so hard to track. But one thing I do know is that people that are vaccinated around me, there's the ones that are sick now, and the people that aren't. So, I mean, that's observation. It's not really reliable data, but, it does mean something. So with that being said, do you guys have any specific cool things? I was going to look up what crazy things happened in 2022, but there were so many that I couldn't. We had to have a whole nother show. So anything that we missed that you'd like to talk about? I know it was like a speed round the whole time. So
Rage Against the Machine, Come Out of Babylon. They're trying to force you to only have access to electric cars, which you can't afford. So anyone within the sound of my voice, please just refuse to buy electric cars. Refuse to play their game.
Elon Musk's going to come after you on that one. So,
I'm sure he's invested in some other.
Well,
things.
you know what? And I see people sitting in their car, charging it. And until they can get this, so I can go to the gas station and get my little Prius filled up in about 3 minutes, and I can go 50 miles per gallon. Now I like those hybrid cars. They're nice. And it should be state law that anybody that owns a Prius must have stickers on the back. Or a vanity plate. I mean, that's just how it goes. And I got accused of being a Democrat because I had a Prius. We got to stop this stereotype. What's that?
It's a brown skin. Oh my God. If I drove a Prius, people would lose their mind. Oh my God.
Well, you could put some 20-inch rims on it.
Lower it.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was way over the top. I am so sorry I even said that, but it would look cool. I mean, you might not be able to get in the thing, and I know those fenders would have to be flared out, but that's just minor details. So I think this was a decent little show. Like I said, we covered a lot of bases. So as I say, join the People Over Politics group on Facebook, and I'll put out more mindless polls that you can participate in. And I appreciate our audience participation tonight. We had some very good comments there.
I have a quick question for John, for you and Lucy. What do you think about the Attorney General encouraging people to delete TikTok? I'll start. I deleted TikTok, but you guys go ahead.
I never had it to begin with.
Yeah,
and if I find it on my kids' phones, I take it off.
Yeah,
what do you think about the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands getting fired after she filed that lawsuit? That's a good question too.
Lawsuit against who?
Biden.
Oh,
what?
Go look at it. We can talk about it next week, but go look at it. The Attorney General of the Virgin Islands has been fired.
So I got a question for you. Do we have a new Speaker of the House, or did it still voting on that?
It'll be back tomorrow.
I put that on the poll, and I put Jim Jordan, Steve Scalise, and McCarthy on there. Not anybody, those three choices were pretty much half the people didn't want them, but Jim Jordan was the overwhelming choice. I think people want somebody that's going to be hard-nosed, and who knows if he would. I mean, we hear Rand Paul and Lindsey Graham talk all this tough talk, but nothing ever comes of it. I want to see somebody's ass get kicked over there. I really do. And I don't know who can do it, but we need a wake-up call in this country to get people at first united on the same track, but we got to have ideas to get people united. So with that being said, let's go ahead and roll this conspiracy theory. I got one tonight. I don't know how good it is, but I got one. So let's see what we got here. Let's play this goofy guy here and see what's conspiracy. Hey, y'all, it's time for the conspiracy theory, so you better get your tinfoil hat out, and let's see what's going on this week. Yep, we are here. Look at us go. Well, Lucy, your mushrooms are taking over your tinfoil, but that's okay. It looks better. You look like a hobbit with mushroom head. So we're going to start. Let's get Tiffany out of the way first of all, and then we'll go, because that'll be a good warm up for this thing. So what do you got? I mean, It's like,
So one of the things I want to say, my prayers are definitely with DeMar Hamlin after what happened last night in the Cincinnati Bills game. My heart is with him. On the other side of that, I think that the NFL is going to change. I think that your players unions are going to have, the players union is going to have more of a say. I think things are going to change with football moving forward.
yeah, I mean, I hear people complaining about targeting and some of the other stuff. I mean, if you think about it, football is a tough, tough sport. I remember meeting Jeff Harrod. He was a linebacker for the Colts. And when I looked at his hands, his fingers were this way and that way. And, he didn't manage his money very well. It's, there's a shelf life. It is every injury I have is from football. That my finger, everything I have. So it is a tough, tough sport, and I think that I think they're more like gladiators in Rome. It's like, hey, we lose a couple, it's entertaining. We need blood. So I agree with you, Tiffany. I don't know what it's a big, 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 big business. But somewhere in there, there's going to be
if it doesn't change and if it doesn't evolve, that means that system doesn't care about those players. And they've written off CTE for so many years, and it was easy to do because nobody saw it. It was something that happened after you retired, and they didn't know it until you killed yourself and they looked at your brain. But that gentleman last night had a horrible injury, and it's just a reminder how violent football is. And I just hope that that the players will be able to come together, and whatever issues they have, whatever changes they want to see, I just hope that football can be made safer for the players. I enjoy it. I love it. I love high school football. I was on sidelines since middle school through high school. I worked with the football program in college. I love football. I want it to be better for the players. And however that happens, I'm completely on board.
Before you get started, Lucy, this is a comment from Dorn. Oh, not that one. About the Hobbit thing. Dorn says you have hairy feet. So I'm not going to ask. I just thought that was interesting. So what do you, oh yeah, I'll leave it just like that. That's perfect. Oh yeah. Yeah. So what do you got? And I think you'll be happy with my conspiracy tonight. I think I'm going to weave a lot of stuff together here. So.
Well, I mean, let's just go back to the fact that too many of our public officials and celebrities are involved in child trafficking. Human trafficking is insanely profitable. It's not conspiracy theory. It's just conspiracy fact. The only thing I'm leaving out of my conspiracy, because none of us know, is who was on Epstein's client list, who was in Ghislaine's little black book. It's very sad, but there are people in this country that go take junkets in other countries to rape children. And if we figure out who those people are, then they should be executed in the public square.
Yeah, I would agree. And, it seems like Ghislaine has taken the fall, and honestly, she just kept notes. I mean, as far as what I can tell, I mean, I think she was involved with all that stuff, but I don't know if you could say that she was.
Girls. I think
she probably was. I mean, obviously they threw her in the jail or something, but
she did.
Let's put it this way. Let me rephrase that. Strike all that. Edit it out. She was the only person that really got caught up with it. I mean, Epstein obviously did, but I don't even know if Epstein really killed himself. That's a whole nother show, right? But
she got caught holding the bag. Yes,
yes,
she did.
Exactly. Somebody had to get the blame for it, and how that has not been leaked. I'm with you, Lucy, on that one. I don't know how that's happened. So
that is really interesting. It was what Ghislaine, and then Prince
Prince
Edward.
Andrew.
Those were the only Andrew. Those were the only two people who got in any kind of trouble.
Yeah, well, your buddy Lucy, your buddy Bill Gates was out there several times too.
17 times, according to his wife.
Yeah, well,
that was like the final straw for her. She's like, I can plan pandemics with you, honey. We can even plot to have the next pandemic be worse. But if you're out raping little kids, I got to draw the line.
We got to draw a line, man. I mean, we make fun of that, but it's it's like, how does this stuff stay covered up? I don't get it. So this leads me to my conspiracy. And this was our final question that was on the survey, and it's by Ed Liptrap. So, it's going to be about Spirit Airlines. And his question was, Spirit Airlines merger. And believe it or not, that got 5%. I voted for that. Now, here's my conspiracy about that. Now, this is Bill Gates. Bill Gates is involved with the Spirit Airline thing because he's going to buy it. And that's what, and he's actually behind all these flight delays with Spirit and all the poor service because he wants to get so low he can buy it for cheap. And then he's going to own an airline. He's going to own all the the farmland, and he already owns all the windows in the computer world. So why not have an airline? So that's my conspiracy. Bill Gates is driving the price of Spirit down, and he's specifically going after Ed. And he's probably took out Ed's internet tonight. And that's why he couldn't be on the show, because he was going to talk about Spirit Airlines and the Bill Gates conspiracy, but they got to him first. So there you go, people. Believe it or not. It's like Ripley's. Believe it or not. So, okay. Well, I think, here we got update on the votes. Who's this Jeffries guy? He was close to getting half of them or whatever. And then Boggs, I don't know that guy. I know Brian Boggs. I ride bikes with him, and this is round one. So I guess they do it again tomorrow. A lot of arm twisting going on. They do it all. So
I don't think they're twisting arms.
No, yeah. They're doing more than that. It's like there's all sorts of shenanigans going on. So, all right. Well, I think this was a very successful show. You did great. Hopefully, we'll get Ed's internet fixed. I'll make a diversion for Bill Gates so he lays off of Ed and get him going again. And we'll be in touch for next week. I have no idea what the topic is, but we'll come up with something. Thanks for everybody watching.
Bye, Robert. Bye, Coleman.
Yeah, bye all the fans. Bye all the fans. So
bye, Spiro.
Peace out. There you go. Hey, y'all, it's time for... That'd be the wrong one.